今回は花粉症の話ですね。春になるとうちの英会話ですんでね、よく出る話題ですね。製薬会社のテレビ CM も増えますね。抗ヒスタミン薬、アレルギー、鼻炎薬とかそういうのばっかりですよね。どっちかといえばビールの CM の方が好きかな。英会話に関しては一番難しいところは症状の話です。英語で symptoms と言います。くしゃみ、鼻水、鼻詰まり。症状はいろいろあると思います。この動画で花粉症の症状を英語で言ってみましょうというきっかけですね。自分もまだ花粉症にはなってないので、でもね、その花粉症で苦しんでる方を見るとすっごく大変そうだなといつも思ってます。So find out how to talk about the symptoms of hay fever and all the other stuff that goes along with it in English. So first and foremost, how do we say 花粉症 in English? The most common way is hay fever. However, I've noticed that a lot of students in our school say pollen allergy. That's fair enough. It's technically the correct way to say it. But personally, I think that most native speakers would just go ahead and say hay fever. For me, I just never say pollen allergy. The medical name is allergic rhinitis, but nobody ever says that. So, what is hay? Basically, it's dried grass that's usually fed to animals. The term hay fever originated in England in the early 19th century. It was first described by John Bostock, an English physician, in 1819. He noticed that some of his patients experienced allergy-like symptoms such as sneezing, runny nose, and itchy eyes during the haymaking season, particularly in the summer months when hay was being harvested and processed. What verb do we use with hay fever? As with most diseases and conditions, we almost always use the verbs have and get. I have really bad hay fever. I've had hay fever since I was a kid. I think I'm starting to get hay fever. If you want to get fancy, you can use these expressions. I'm prone to. I'm prone to getting hay fever in the spring. I tend to. I tend to get hay fever in the autumn. Let's talk about the different symptoms you might experience with your eyes as a hay fever sufferer. The first one is mega kayui. My eyes are itchy. Or you could also say, I have itchy eyes. Itchy, like this. The next one, me no juketsu. My eyes are red. That's pretty simple. And the next one, I have bloodshot eyes. So when your eyes are really, really red, you can say bloodshot. Gorogoro toshita ibutsukan. I have a gritty sensation in my eyes. So what's grit? Grit is really small stones, like on the beach or like in the garden or something. Grit. I feel there's always something in my eye. Yeah, you know that feeling is like you don't know what it is, but something uncomfortable about your eyes. The next one is namidame. My eyes are watery. Or you can also say, I get very teary-eyed. So a tear is one droplet, a tear. So to get teary-eyed, meani. I get a lot of eye mucus. Ooh, doesn't sound very good. Another way to say it is, I have a lot of gunk in my eyes. So gunk is a very casual way to say, like, you know, that kind of thing, gunk. You can have gunk in your kitchen, around your eyes. You know, it's just kind of like sticky, horrible, dirty gunk. This is another big one, isn't it? Problems with your nose, which affects breathing, talking, and sleep. Kushami. In English, we say sneeze. I can't stop sneezing. Or if it's really, really bad, I have terrible sneezing fits. So a sneezing fit is when you sneeze 3, 4, 5 times, like achoo, 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 one after the other. It's called a sneezing fit. Hanamizu. So in English, we don't say nose water, which I know a lot of people make that mistake. You say, I have a runny nose. Runny is used a lot for eggs and things like that. My nose won't stop running. So again, we're using run as a verb or as an adjective. Runny is an adjective. Running is the verb. Hanazumari. This is a really tough one if you've got a job where you have to do lots of talking, yeah? I have a stuffy nose. Or you could also say, my nose is blocked. So those are the two most casual ways to say it in daily conversation. The medical expression that you might see on a packet of medicine would be nasal congestion. But in everyday English, we say stuffy or blocked. In this section, I'll talk about this area, the throat and the mouth. I guess this is one of the reasons why people wear a mask. Seki. Cough. I have a terrible cough. Or you could say, my hay fever makes me cough. Nodo no kayumi. So before, when I talked about the eyes, we kind of touched on these words. I get a really itchy throat. I have a scratchy throat. So we can use the words itchy and scratchy. Igarapasa. That's a really difficult Japanese word to say that actually. Igarapasa. Igarapasa. It sounds like some kind of Italian dish. Sounds delicious. I'm going to have igarapasa and carbonara. So my throat feels dry all the time. And you can also say something like, I have an uncomfortable feeling in my throat. So if you have an uncomfortable feeling, you don't exactly know what it is, but something is going on in your throat and it just feels uncomfortable. Nodo ga itai. Of course, we're talking about your throat. I have a sore throat. Or I have a pain in my throat when I swallow. So swallow means when you drink something or just swallow some saliva. You know that terrible feeling? Yeah. And instead of saying throat candy, you should use the word throat lozenge. I've just been to the sumo. I had such a great time. Yes, yes, yes. You can't beat a bit of sumo to make you feel better. I've got this terrible hay fever though. Oh, my eyes, they're so dry and a little bit watery. And the sneezing and the coughing all the time. Oh, it never lets up. I wish I could just take my eyes out and put them in the washing machine and give them a good old wash. Well, that's not to be, is it? I take medicine every day. My darling wife, oh, she's a lovely, that one. She gets me this medicine and I take it every morning. But you know what? It gives me a terribly dry throat. I need to drink something all the time. Good job. I brought some beer with me, eh? Cheers. But I'm very busy. Oh yes, I've got to dash. Some people have trouble with their skin as their body fights against the pollen. Hadare. My skin is red and irritated. So irritated is often used for people's feelings, like you're getting angry, irritated. Oh, but you can also use the word irritated for like problems with your body. If something is like swollen or looks a little bit red, you can say, my skin is irritated. Another one is, my skin feels very sensitive. Like just when you touch it, it feels like extra sensitive. Kafun hifuen. So actually, I'd never heard of these English words before or the Japanese word, but here goes. I have pollen dermatitis. So dermatitis is a very common problem that people have with, skin issues, but pollen dermatitis. There you go. I learned something new. And also we can have, I have pollen-induced eczema. So eczema can also be pronounced as eczema. And it's actually a really common problem with people all over the world. Eczema or eczema. Hada no kanso. This is pretty straightforward. I'm sure you already know the answer. My skin is very dry. To give a little bit more detail, you could say, my skin feels rough, tight, and itchy. So the word tight is a good one. Like when you feel your skin is like really tight, especially I feel it in the winter, like the skin on my face or sometimes on my hand, the skin feels tight. That's a good way to explain it. Piri piri suru. So I always thought piri piri was for like spicy food or like a bad atmosphere in the room, but I guess you can also use it for your skin. So we can say my skin feels tingly. Tingly, what a great word. Tingly, it's like overly sensitive and it's like, ooh, it's like little pins and needles going around. And also you can say my skin feels like it's stinging. Stinging. So if your skin is stinging, it's like painful to the touch. So we also use the word sting for like a bee. If a bee stings you, you can say, I was stung by a bee. It reminds me of the boxer Muhammad Ali who said, I dance like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Another symptom of hay fever is headaches. Oh. In Japanese, you have various words to describe different types of pain. But in English, it's much more simple. Level 1, I have a bit of a sore head. Level 2, I have a headache. Level 3, I have a terrible headache. Level 4, my head is killing me. Level 5, I have a thumping headache. Ah! We also have one more special word, a migraine. Yes, it's pronounced migraine. Some people do pronounce it migraine, but the majority of people say migraine. This is a type of headache that can really affect your life. It usually only happens on one side of the head. They can be very debilitating. By debilitating, I mean it can really make your life horrible. You can't work, you can't sleep, you can't think because it's just like this nagging pain. It's called a migraine. I have a terrible migraine. I get migraines almost every day. I take medicine for my migraines. How do you explain the type of hay fever that you have? Well, there are so many of them, but here are the top 4 that I hear all the time. Cedar pollen, cypress pollen, ragweed pollen, rice pollen. In a sentence you would say, I'm allergic to something pollen. Now remember, the pronunciation is not arerugi or something like that. It's allergic. Allergic. Allergic to. I am allergic to something pollen. Be careful with the pronunciation. I'm allergic to cedar pollen. I'm allergic to cypress pollen. I'm allergic to ragweed pollen. I'm allergic to rice pollen. Oh, I've got these terrible migraines. I just found out that I'm allergic to cedar pollen. God, bloody hay fever. Me at this age. Just started this year. What a nightmare. I can't stop coughing and sneezing. And it's not good for somebody in my position. Definitely not a good look when you're in the food preparation industry. Yeah, good job. I wear a mask when I'm preparing the food, but it's so hot in the kitchen here, it's really uncomfortable. Just the other day, when I was preparing this really high quality Kobe A5 beef steak, so I was putting it on the plate and I sneezed and the steak went flying across the kitchen and landed on the floor. Ah, what a waste of money. Bloody hay fever. Ah, God, I can't wait for the summer to come. It's homework time. Okay, I'm going to give you a Japanese sentence and I want you to change it into some beautiful English. Put your answers down in the comments below. Remember, try and use some of the language that you learned from this video. Okay, so here's the sentence. 目がかゆい。スポット取り出して丸洗いしたい。Wow, if only we could, if only we could. Okay, so best of luck and I look forward to seeing your homework and I'll check it as soon as I can.